My boyfriend caught me watching homemade adult films videos of my deceased husband and I, and is now accusing me of cheating. My boyfriend and I have been seriously dating for 3 years, and eventually want to settle down and marry. My late husband and I were together since college and had a very loving and passionate relationship until he was torn away from me in a freak accident 8 years ago. I have mostly moved on, but still miss him terribly some days. I do not compare my now boyfriend with him, because both have a really special place in my heart. My boyfriend is sensitive to this loss of mine and I have been in therapy and he accepts my late husband as one of the greatest loves I have ever experienced. My late husband and I used to always have an intimate night together on New Year's and last night I was terribly missing him again. He had gifted me a pillowcase he customized for me made of satin and I lie down with it whenever I want to feel close to him, it's just how I cope. So last night when my boyfriend was watching TV I went to my room, hugged the pillow and opened my hard drive that had our photos. I had not opened that file in so long, I forgot I also had NSFW stuff in there, and when I saw it I wanted to relive it, so I started browsing. I did not want to delete our intimate photos of us in the bathtub, our honeymoon and wedding nights, some NKED cuddling, because those are special to me. My boyfriend came upstairs and asked what I was looking at. I showed it to him thinking it was no big deal, but in his response I sensed alarm in his voice. He started questioning what the heck I was doing browsing through those photos and why do I see a use in keeping such intimate media with a former partner? I tried to laugh it off, I smiled sheepishly because at first I thought he was going to tease me about it. However, when I realized how hurt he was, he simply didn't let me say anything. He genuinely felt hurt and betrayed and accused me of cheating on him and told me that I can sleep with him in his grave. I felt that was crossing the line and wanted to scream my head off but kept calm. My boyfriend never had such a reaction to me missing him before and I can see why my actions hurt him, but to accuse me of cheating on him feels super wrong. He told me that he is breaking up with me and warned me not to contact him. He left my place and I have no idea how to talk to him. Update: my boyfriend finally called me back asking to meet. I thought we could have a conversation about it and make up. He however didn't intend that. When we met, I asked if we could get back together, offering to remove those files from my laptop and transferring them into a USB drive, all photos, even non-intimate ones so I don't have easy access to them. He told me he would ideally be in a relationship with someone who only had him in her heart and he'd rather I get rid of my husband altogether, but it's unfair to me. He said he realized what he wants and that is number one in someone's heart. He put up with a lot of stuff just because I am a widow and doesn't think he would date one again. It really hurt me when he told me that my action has damaged any trust in our relationship and even if he wanted, he couldn't pretend, and what hurt me the most, he says he has lost feelings for me. He initially had finally decided he would propose to me by the end of the year but now it's not in his plans. I was incredibly hurt and started bawling but he wouldn't comfort me. He simply wished me the best and told me he hopes the memories of my husband keep me warm at night. Which I found petty and disrespectful but was too stunned to say anything.
My granddaughter is lesbian but won't tell us because we are Christians. My granddaughter has changed and is isolating herself from us. I think she is of lesbian descent, but is afraid to tell us because we are religious Christians. How do I tell her that we will still accept her? My granddaughter Lynn is 16 and lives with me, her 67-year-old grandfather, and my wife who's 62 since she was 4 years old. Our daughter, her mother, and her father died in a car accident, and we took her in. But lately Lynn has become very isolated and rude to us. I don't mean with that she always has to respect us because we are older, because this, in my opinion, is a stupid concept, but she sometimes calls us names without any reason or refuses to talk to us or eat anything my wife or I cooked. I should probably mention that me and my wife are Christians and religious. Lynn is not, but we accepted that a long time ago. 2 days ago, some packages for my wife were delivered to the door and I opened the door. Then suddenly my granddaughter comes basically flying down the stairs, grabs one of the packages, and runs up to her room. Lynn then leaves for a walk with a dog, and when I bring the items away to the bathroom, I catch a look through her door and see a rainbow flag hanging on the wall. I'm not someone who likes snooping in people's rooms, so I hold back myself from further investigating her room, and when she comes home I don't say anything. I told my wife and that I thought she might be a lesbian, but my wife reminded me that my daughter never, ever brought anyone home or mentioned anyone, and pretty obviously is not interested in girls. I should also mention that Lynn recently cut her hair short and started coloring it. Something that's normal for teen girls, I guess. I don't know. And neither does my wife. I think we both are just too old and born too long ago to really relate to our granddaughter a lot. There's another thing my wife noticed because I usually don't notice such things. But she told me that Lynn started wearing fewer dresses and skirts and more boy clothes, meaning the shirts you find in the boys department in a store. I don't really mind, but when I saw that rainbow flag I realized that maybe all these changes have to do something with her being a lesbian. Maybe she didn't tell us because she thinks we will not accept her because we are Christians, and both me and my wife were sadly raised in very homophobic times and environments. But humans can change. And although we maybe are old, we are not stupid and changed our minds over the years. Me and my wife definitely will accept Lynn. We love her and I don't care whom our granddaughter loves as long as she's happy. How can I tell that to Lynn without giving off that I snooped in her room? I obviously didn't really search her room, but I suppose the rainbow flag was not meant for my eyes. I stole over $20,000 in a very creative way in the 90s. I worked at a fast food chain in the 90s when I was in high school. When I worked there, they were in the process of phasing out denominational gift certificates. $5, $10, and $25. The way it worked was if you spent more than half of the certificate, they gave you the cash back. So if you ordered $5.50 worth of food and gave them one of the $10 gift cards, they gave you the $4.50 back in cash. My manager was in charge of destroying all the existing certificates as we transitioned to the more traditional credit card-looking gift cards. So my manager said he shredded the certificates like he was supposed to. But one night when I was closing, I found 2 boxes of the gift cards tucked deep in the dry storage room. They were filled with the certificates that were supposed to be shredded. So I scooped them up, brought them out to the dumpster and trash bags and threw them away. After we closed, I came back and recovered the back and brought the certificates home. I counted them. There were $1,025, $1,010, and $505 certificates. None of them had expiration dates. Total haul was $40,000 in fast food certificates. My manager never said a word. He couldn't. He had reported them destroyed weeks earlier. Over the next 3 years, my girlfriend and I toured every location in our state and the next 4 states ordering food and getting the change. We never kept track on a spreadsheet or anything, but we got good at knowing what menu items were just about half. After the first year, we started saving the change in a chute box and let it build up. I bought my first car for $7,800 cash from the change, and for some reason a kiddie cone was $1.05. If you gave them a $5 certificate, they gave you $3.95 back. We threw away a lot of kiddie cones. Am I the jerk for not letting my son's boyfriend come on vacation with us unless he pays his own way, even though I'm paying for everyone else? For a summer vacation this year, I went all out. I rented a houseboat for 5 days. It cost about $22,000. We are celebrating my wife's 50th birthday and our 30th anniversary. It is a huge houseboat, and we have been planning this for a while. All the kids are coming and bringing their SOs and family. I am flying my son and his wife over from the Philippines for this. My youngest son attends university on the East Coast and he has a new person in his life every few weeks. He is staying out there for the summer, but I'm also flying him in for the party. He wants me to pay for his new boyfriend to come. This is news to me because when he last spoke to me in July, he had a girlfriend. He changes partners more often than he does laundry. I said his boyfriend was more than welcome to join us, but that he would have to pay for his own flight. The girl he was dating wasn't going to come because she felt awkward being at a family party after only dating for a month, so I wasn't going to buy her a ticket. My son says that I'm being homophobic and a-hole for not bringing his boyfriend out. I pointed out that his sister and her wife of 2 years would be there. He hung up and called his mom. She thinks I should just pay. I probably will to keep the peace, but I think it stupid to pay for a vacation for a kid I will never see again. And he's going to be in family pictures forever. I wasn't invited to a wedding, so I hooked up with a bride's sister. I had a call an hour ago with my project manager and explained the entire situation. She advised me to go to HR and make a complaint since it could lead to a hostile work environment. I have a meeting with them Monday. I don't really want to make a formal complaint, just have it on file in case anything happens. I don't think it will since Jim doesn't seem like that kind of person, but I've been wrong plenty of times before. So as per the advice here, I won't be going to dinner with Jim and Pam. I will, however, insist on a public apology that doesn't imply that I'm a creep. And I'm insisting on some fresh apple cider donuts, not store-bought, but fresh. I called Jim on his work phone to explain my change of heart. He was disappointed, but understood my reasoning. I parroted some of the talking points and he said he understood. He wouldn't make a big deal out of it, and we could just move on. I thanked him for being cool about it, and he hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but not 5 minutes later, Jim called me back. I groan and pick up. Surprisingly, it was Pam on the other side. She didn't come at me hostile, but she did sound upset. She wanted to know why I didn't want to come anymore. I explained what I told Jim about how they basically insisted I was a creep. I told her I didn't want to invalidate her experiences, but I didn't have to accept being told I'm a potential monster. She said that she didn't mean it like that, and that she thinks I'm a good person, but couldn't risk it for her wedding. She was practically begging me to meet her in person to clear the air further. She kept on saying that we could be the best of friends if I'd give her a chance to explain better. I said no, thanks, and that I had to go. But I'm sorry that she went through what she went through. I ended the call by saying, I didn't even get those donuts. I then hung up. They swung low, so I swung lower. It's been quiet since then, but Jim is back in the office on Monday, and I fear Pam might do something. I wasn't invited to a wedding, so I hooked up with a bride's sister. I was the only one in our workplace not invited to my coworker's wedding, but nothing is what it seemed. I've been working for my company for 7 years now, 5 of which have been spent on my current team. There are 15 people on it, and I'd say we're all pretty close, relatively speaking. I have a coworker named Jim, who joined the team when I did. During the pandemic, he announced to everyone on a Zoom meeting that he was now engaged. Fast forward to this January, and Jim says that his wedding would be held in September of this year at a really beautiful winery. About 5 months ago, the invites started coming in for everyone on the team, but mine didn't. I waited a few weeks, but nothing came, so I went to Jim and asked if my invite got sent out. He gave me a solemn look and then told me that I wasn't invited because of a spacing issue. He said he tried to make it work, but just couldn't, and hoped I didn't take it personally. He also said I'd be sure to get wedding favors and a piece of cake. He also asked me to keep it to myself and please not make a big deal out of it. I honestly didn't know what to say, so I guess I just said okay and walked away. I won't lie, I was upset. I hate feeling excluded, and it was doubly worse because everyone else on the team was going except for me. And honestly, I really like weddings. They're usually very fun. I kept it to myself, but I wasn't happy. The day of the wedding came 3 weeks ago, and it went by without a hitch. Everyone on my team had a grand time and said it was beautiful. The food and party was great as well, and apparently everyone got a dozen fresh apple cider donuts to take home. I never did get that cake or wedding favors. At work the following Monday, my team member Sherry told me that everyone was confused as to where I was. Apparently Jim said I was sick and couldn't make it. I was confused and then angry. I straight up told her I wasn't invited and left it at that. She looked shocked and asked me to confirm, and I said yes, I wasn't invited. Well, Sherry told someone because about 5 people asked me if I wasn't invited, and I said it was true. Today it was Jim's first day back from his honeymoon, and it must have gotten back to him that I spilled the beans. He approached me in the break room, and he was upset that I told Sherry, and that it wasn't a big deal I missed the wedding. I said, "How would you like to be excluded from something everyone else is going to?" We went back and forth for a bit before Jim walked away. I was pretty upset, so upset that my project manager came to ask me if I was okay because she heard about me not being invited. I didn't want this to go this far, so I said yes. But other team members came up to me and said that Jim should have invited me, and it was wrong he didn't. Look, I realized that it was his wedding day, and he's allowed to invite who he wants. But I'm allowed to be upset that I wasn't invited, right? We'll probably try to clear some air between us tomorrow, or I'll give him a piece of my mind. Who knows?
My neighbor kidnapped my child, so I fought back. I, 26F, and my husband, 35M, just moved into a small suburban town in rural Washington. It was nice there because the house we purchased was quite large for the family size we had, with just having one child, a daughter, 5, and a dog. We lived near a park where my daughter and dog liked to play. Okay, now the actual story. Our neighbor was crazy. She frequently stole things from us when we weren't looking, such as our books, flowers in our garden, and even at one point our porch swing. With everything missing and not knowing that she was the one stealing everything, I decided to buy one of the doorbells with a camera to track what was happening. As well, I asked other neighbors if this happens to them, and the same response has happened. Yes, things go missing all the time, things just vanish. So with this new doorbell I was able to not only see my frost porch, but other lawns, so I could help others out too. Now on this day I remember it being very rainy at the point where the sky was pitch black. My daughter loved to jump in the puddle, so when she asked to go outside I said yes to her, making sure I watched the doorbell in case she needed to go inside. This is when it happened. My neighbor, now dressed in a large black raincoat and black winter hat, ran up from behind my child and took her inside of her house. It happens in a matter of seconds. I didn't even realize what had happened because I was talking to my husband sitting on the couch. When I called her inside I got no response. I was confused. What had just happened to her? I went out into the rain and saw her nowhere. I screamed and called 911. She was filled as missing 2 days later. I was deep in regret, not able to help my only child. I remember scrolling on my phone and saw the doorbell app. Wait, I thought I can see exactly what happened on this. I opened the app and scolded to 2 days prior. There it was, my neighbor snatching my child right in front of me. I called the police again and they right to my face told me it's not enough proof to arrest and we can't go in cause we don't have a warrant. My husband was furious. I only on the other hand enraged with the fact this lady stole my child, decided I was going to do something about it. I walked over to the neighbor's house and knocked on the door. The lady did come eventually and she asked me, "What are you doing here?" I told her I know you have my child. I know you stole those things from me. Give her back now and I won't tell anyone else. She profusely said that I don't know what you're talking about. That's when I heard the screams of my child. I pushed the lady aside. I ran to the back of the house where she was with food all over her mouth and cluttered just all over her place. I said, "Come here sweetheart, we're going home," and that's why I turned around to see the lady. This story is going to get violent from here to the end. The lady was standing there with a knife in her hand. Because we are in a nice neighborhood, this house was very large. I dropped my child and told her to go run home to dad, tell him I'm here and tell him to call the police. She went off running. But the lady only stared at me. She smiled but it turned creepy. "I've taken an item out of my collection," she said to me. "I will punish you for that," and she hurled it at me with a knife. I dodged her and made my way through the clutter and mess the house was made of and got to the door when the lady came back. "You're not getting away this time," she slashed at me with a knife. It cut open my arm and blood started to rush. My screams distracted her and I punched her in the thought. I scrimmaged through the massive piles of junk when I found a shard of glass. I picked it up and put it behind my back. The lady was walking to me again, saying the same things that she was prior. I fake cried knowing I was about to get the upper hand on her. She started to taunt me with a knife and that's when I struck her. It went right into her neck. I took the shard out. The lady started to gurgle as blood sprayed everywhere. Then out of luck, she stabbed me in the gut. I froze. The pain ruptured through my body. I looked down and took the knife out. Screaming, I took the knife and glass shard and plugged them into the lady. I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital a few days later. The doctors told me that I had died for over 3 minutes. I was bewildered and confused. My family came in later and I got the story about Andy and who she was. She was mentally unstable for years and nobody said anything about it. My daughter spoke out about what happened to her there, but I would be speaking about it for her privacy. I am all right now and luckily moved out of state and started a fresh life putting this all behind me.
I beat the crap out of a pick-me girl and it felt so good. I'm a professional boxer. My husband has also been training in combat sports for over a decade. After we got together, he took me to his training gym, where I met his female training partner, who had been training with him for many years. She was the biggest pick-me I've seen in my life. On the first day, I stood quietly in a skirt, watching them train. She came over and warmly asked, "Why don't you train with us? He likes girls who are into sports." I smiled and replied, "No thanks." During the training, she constantly partnered with him and chatted with him during breaks. My husband, then boyfriend, ignored her and walked over to me, asking if I was bored waiting. I shook my head and told him that he looked really handsome while boxing. She followed us and put her arm around his shoulder, looking at me and saying, "We are all about violence. You probably don't like all this fighting and killing." She then positioned herself between me and my husband, turned away from me, and started asking him some boxing technique questions. My husband was getting a bit annoyed at this point, but he didn't want to be rude, so he told her they could discuss it later after the break. She turned around, seeming to notice me for the first time, and said, "Ah, I see. You probably don't understand what we're talking about and find it boring, right?" I remained silent with a cold expression on my face. Later, my husband decided to change partners during the break. She exaggeratedly said to me, "Are you really jealous of this too? It's just a normal training process. We don't mind male or female partners. We've been training like this for over a decade. Don't be so petty." I was getting infuriated, but I couldn't find the right way to confront her. My husband noticed my upset and said he would stop training and go home. In another encounter at the supermarket, she once again pushed me aside and held on to my husband, chatting incessantly. I decided to walk away to buy some snacks. My husband finally got away from her, saying he needed to check on what I was doing. She followed him, saw the snacks in my hands, and exclaimed, "Oh, how can you eat such junk food? It's so unhealthy. We boxers have a strict discipline and never eat this stuff." I replied, "I love to eat what I like." Then she started messaging my husband from time to time. I was naturally angry and told my husband not to respond to her messages. He was quite helpless, saying, "She's asking me about training techniques. I can't just ignore her. We've known each other as teammates for so many years." Every time she saw me at the gym, she made a point to say, "We only talk about training in our messages. Don't worry about it." During training, she would cling to my husband, touching his shoulder and waist. using the excuse of correcting his training movements. My patience was nearly at its limit. Once when I accompanied my husband to the gym and changed into sportswear, intending to train with them, she started her act again. Since she'd been training at this gym for many years, she always led the warm-up exercises. She deliberately made the warm-up more difficult and intense than usual, making everyone exhausted. Gasping for breath, she ran over to me and proudly said, "This intensity is just ordinary for us. The actual training will be even tougher. It's normal for you to find it hard at the beginning. You'll get used to it with more practice." I smiled and replied, "I'm not tired. I just think this warm-up is not scientifically sound." She got angry and pulled my husband's arm, saying, "She doesn't know anything but acts like she knows everything." My husband patted her arm down and said, "My girlfriend is a professional boxer." She looked confused and I said, "I also do boxing. Today I'll use one of your punching bags." She was surprised and excited, suggesting we spar in a real fight that day, but I didn't want to do that and told her I didn't feel like it. She began insulting me, saying, "I get it. Most girls who do boxing just want to look good. They are timid and weak, afraid of real combat. Very few girls are like me, tough like a man, not afraid of getting hit. Ha ha ha." I got annoyed and decided to fight her to shut her up. I told her, "Fine, let's do it." She condescendingly said, "Don't worry, I'll take it easy on you." My husband saw that I was genuinely upset and didn't know how to deal with her constant pestering. He helped me put on my boxing gloves and mouthguard and gently said, "Don't get too angry, just open up your heart and spar, but be gentle." When the fight started, she came at me like a mad woman, throwing heavy punches. What happened to take it easy on me? I dodged and evaded, occasionally asking her, "Why are you so aggressive?" She ignored me and kept on attacking with full force. It was evident that she wanted to bully the weak. If I were a complete beginner, she would have beaten me badly. She had gone too far, and I had had enough. I didn't want to engage with amateurs, lowering myself to their level, or disregard martial principles. But when someone provokes continuously and tries to snatch my man, even animals have territorial disputes, let alone humans. So I stopped being defensive and started to counterattack. Although I didn't go all out, I did hit her hard enough to make it painful. She couldn't last a minute against me. My personality may be quiet, but I am a boxer. Martial artists should cultivate their moral character, and when faced with strength, they should respond with strength and be willing to challenge those stronger than themselves, rather than taking advantage of the weak. She had trained for a long time and thought she could bully others. So I just gave her a small lesson. Since she wanted to act like a tough woman and one of the boys, I dealt with her like how I would treat a guy. After I gave her a beating, she finally stopped bothering me. I'll update everyone if she ever does again.